public input. We had no declined requests. We've had 2 accepted requests. Dr. Mairi J from Extinction Rebellion Tamaki Makaurau, and Karina Hooper on the shag species, the Panmure Basin Notice of Motion. So first of all, we will have Dr. Mairi J. And just correct me if I didn't say your name correctly, apologies. And if you're bringing others up. Cool. Good. We'll just get you to the button on the right. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Oh, right.
If you just click the button on the right, down in front of you, it says talk. Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, Doctor, you have 5 minutes to speak, and then there may be a few questions after that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. I would like to just say how extreme we are worried about climate change. And you can see us all old codgers. We have the time and we have the motivation, grandchildren and so forth, to know that we're in deep poo at the moment. Okay, so I'm a ex-environmental scientist at the University of Waikato. I was the director of the planning, the environmental planning program at the university. I'm sorry to be there. Okay, right. So I've looked at your plans. They are really impressive. It's wonderful to see how the climate change plan flows on from the Auckland 2050 plan. It's really great to see that ambitious emissions goal there from 50% by 7.5 years' time, and then 0 by 2050. Enormously ambitious. My passion here is because I have been feeling, every summer I have been feeling the heat. And the news overseas is so desperately gloomy. Really, looking at the Auckland plan and the climate change plan, it's wonderful. I'm very pleased that this council has the mandate to actually oversee, to monitor and oversee the rest of the organisation as it applies to climate change. Wonderful, really good. But the time is against us. We don't have 30 years. I don't even think we've got 10 years, actually. I think this coming summer, a lot of us will be sweating, will be sweltering. Is that right? Okay, next one. Am I going the right way? Right. Okay, so you've got two, both the visionary 30-year plan and the climate change plan have those two objectives of emissions reductions by, first of all, by 2030 and then by 2050. And secondly, looking at the adaptation. I think for emissions, if we're going to reach that one by 2030, 50% reduction, that's 7.5 years away. we have to really start doing something radical, drastic. And one of the things we would like to see the city do is publish emissions data on a frequently regular basis, maybe weekly or monthly or something. We'd like to see monitoring of emissions around the city. That top map there shows what are currently the air quality monitor sites. To me, I don't know if they're the ones that would measure emissions or not, but what seems clear to me is there's not very good monitoring sites down in the south of Auckland. So I'd like to see a better spatial spread of monitoring sites and more frequent publication. Okay, if I can get this thing to work. For adaptation, right, so for emissions, we need to do urgently something to get people to bring emissions down. Then looking at adaptation, all the things in the plan, in the change plan, in the climate change plan, are focused on sort of physical and natural. And that's good, that's fine. But if you look at that thing there, what you see in the middle, the yellow in the middle, is heat. Now this is from data from the USA, from the National Institute of, NOAA Oceans and Air. And that yellow in the middle is heat. All the others, flood, lightning, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc., much less. The heat there is very much linked to humidity. And if any of you have had visitors from out of Auckland for long, I've just been here for 3 months, and the thing that hits me about Auckland is the humidity. So, I'm sorry. Sorry to be so feeble.
Doctor, it's not your fault. It's not quite talking to this system.
Okay,
so.
right. So here we are in Tokyo, which is sort of similarly placed to Auckland, just by the sea. And this very week, we've had the Japanese government asking its citizens to turn off their power, all their air conditioning and so forth, because of the impact on the infrastructure. What I see happening in Auckland as the years go by, and for myself, is every summer is going to be tough. I am going to find it very, very difficult with temperatures over 25 degrees, which we now know we're going to be getting regularly in March, in January and February. And at the very same time, we've got that power struggles and blackouts and so on and so forth.
Doctor, you've gone over time. If you maybe want to try speed up a little bit, maybe I'll give you a minute longer. Is that okay?
I didn't catch what.
Oh, sorry. You've gone over your speaking time. If you could just want to try and loop the next few slides around pretty quickly.
Okay. So at the moment, what the situation in Auckland is that we're expecting by the end of the century 3.5 degrees increase in heat. Now there will be some parts of Auckland, New Lynn I can think of, parts of south of Auckland and so forth, which get very, very hot. And I'm thinking all those poor souls in their apartment buildings, especially the ones that face north, where are they going to go? How are they going to cope with that kind of heat? I think that this committee, with its mandate for climate change, needs to look at the impacts of heat very much as it affects human suffering, and especially as it affects the parts of the Auckland population that, well, I guess low decile parts of the Auckland population. We tend to neglect the impacts of heat. They can have severe heat effects, heat stroke, chronic health, aggression, etc. We need to consider more provision, not just trees because they take time to grow, but more public facilities for people to escape the heat, libraries, etc., etc. I'll leave it at that. There's a conclusion, but it's basically what I've said, and that's the 5 minutes. So to conclude, we're really scared at the rate of global warming that's happening. We think we don't have anything like 30 years. We need to get our emissions down very fast, and we need to do something about global heat and humidity.
Thank you, Doctor. If you just want to wait there in case there are some questions, but thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you to your members that are here as well. Are there any questions? Any questions in the room? Deputy Chair, Councillor Coombe.
Thanks, Chair. Tēnā koe, and thank you so much for coming and presenting today, and ngā to everybody here. I'm really interested to hear those suggestions. So what I can do, and with the Chair, we can follow up and get a response in terms of where those suggestions fit into our planning and how we might be able to look at it a bit more closely. So I'll do that and take that away with the Chair.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Councillor Young.
Thank you for the presentation. Very impressed. My question is, what do you think how the public can easily to reach the frequently emission data from your personal view?
Say that again.
What the public can reach those your recommendation for the emission data frequently?
You mean how can we
the Aucklander can get those information?
Well, I presume at the moment there is some system for measuring emissions, and certainly you have a system for measuring air quality. I would imagine that there's just a tweak involved in getting a more regular, up-to-date measuring and publication.
I've asked the Sustainability Office about this. Unfortunately, the emissions are not measured in the same way our air quality is, so we only get that every 2 years. We don't have a way to, at the moment, a tool to measure emissions in real time. What they have said is that they are working with NIWA to review our air quality measures, which are actually the air quality data is reported every month. So that's already being reported monthly, but we have already taken your feedback on around the spread of those data points. So there's a want from us to increase those data points. The issue is we just don't have a tool. We use a national tool to give us the emissions data. It's not reported back in the frequency we'd like, but I do take it on. We will be asking how that can be increased from a 2-year, because it is hard for us to plan and report because it's such a big change. Like we can't measure, essentially we only have the data from, say, pre-COVID at the moment, and we know there'll be differences, ups and downs in the last 2 years. So yes, there is a want for that that ability, but we can only go with the data we have access to. But definitely, thank you.
Thank you.
We can't really take questions from the other way around against standing orders, but I'll just see if there are any other questions.
May I say, please, that Auckland is already at 1.5 if we take pre-industrial, as was originally agreed by the IPCC, at 1750 to 1780. So I noticed that in 1905,
Yeah.
which the latest
Thank you.
IPCC reports New Zealand, we were at 1.1.
Yeah.
If you just basic arithmetic shows us that we are now at 1.5.
Thank you, sir. So the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we
Thank
can do emissions. Thank you,
Yeah.
Richard.
Thank you.
Very much.
No, that's fine. We've just had the presentation, but thank you very much for that extra information.
And
No, we can't have a continued, we've already given more than the scheduled time. We have to be fair for all presenters.
His point about humidity in Auckland.
Cool.
35
Thank you.
degrees
Yeah.
is different from dry.
Cool. Please, feel free, Deputy Chair Pipakuma and I can meet with you on more information, or you can send us that, but we have had the full presentation now. And thank you very much. And thank you. Councillor Young, would you like to move receiving this presentation? Deputy Chair Coombe.
Second, Kathy.
Oh, sorry, Kathy, I will wait. We've already got Deputy Chair Coombe seconding that. Apologies, I need to be more cognizant of those online and the delay there. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Cool.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Right, we have public input from Karina Hooper. We'll just check that you are online, Karina. She is coming. Just make sure. Don't seem to have Karina yet. We may have to move on, unfortunately. We can, although the notice of motion is straight after, so it might not. Right, we'll go to local board